Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mr. Fred Lamkey is the superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools. Our guest on the phone today, Mr. Lamkey. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Seth, how are you doing today?
Doing good. A little nervous about Illinois Thursday. Not a game I don't think we can't win. You just never know in these tournaments. How you feeling about Illinois in this tournament right now, Mr. Lamkey?
Well, I think if you're an Illini fan and you're not nervous, you haven't been a fan for very long. We kind of know what the tournament looks like to them. But, wow, that was an impressive win they had this on Saturday. Kind of pumps you up a little bit, makes you feel like we got a chance. You know,
and I feel bad saying this, but for the first two rounds of the tournament, I don't think there was a team with a better draw than Illinois. Like, I thought Illinois got the the first two rounds, you get into the Elite Eight and the Final Four, boy, they really got some teeth in that bracket. But for those first two rounds, I don't know if anybody got a better draw than the Illini did this year.
Well, I think it's about time, because we've had some really rough draws between Loyola and Houston and Arkansas last year. So I think it's about time we got some good draws.
I could not disagree. I could not agree more. Mr. Lamkey, for sure. Let's dive into Mr. Lamkey. I know that you and I caught up last month before, I can't remember, but you mentioned to me that your staff was doing what you called a data retreat, planning for that to look at, just where the district was at and do an analysis. That happened recently. Tell me about this.
Well, part of our yearly school improvement planning is that when we get to the spring of the year, we go back and we look at what all of our goals were for the year, and we dissect those goals apart, and we go, what did we meet and what did we not meet? Where did we get to? Did we accomplish what we wanted to do? And the biggest thing I try and impress upon the district is that when you're looking at data, you can't wear data like a blue ribbon or a gold medal. It's not about how great we are. It's about, what does the data tell us? Where do we go next? And we get a really good focus on that. So our building leadership team from the high school and our building leadership team from the grade school, they create a presentation on their school improvement plans, what they've been doing all year long. They break it down into professional development. They break it down into curriculum, about community relations, stakeholders. And they tie all this in, and they communicate to the board about where we're going. And then the board also shares, well, this is our vision of where we think we're going to go next. This is what we'd like you guys to have on your outlook for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And it's a day of just back and forth conversation between teachers, administrators, and board members to really kind of evaluate what we're doing and where we're going. This is our second year we've done this, and it was better this year than it was last year. And that's the whole thing about it. It's once it really kicks in, it just opens up the stream of conversation that really helps us pull our direction and create vision for the district.
So when you say it was better this year than last year, does that mean the data was better this year than last year? Was the conversation better than this year than last year? What do you mean by that?
Okay, and again, data is not good or bad. It's just data. So as far as the data goes, it just was what it was. But to me, there's two things that happen, Seth. When we started our school improvement planning and we're trying to create our targets on how we improve our district, if you want to give it the dartboard analogy, it was like we were just throwing darts at a wall because we've never done it before, and we had to learn, how do you do this? But each year since that, in the last 5 years, we've been getting a better and better focus. And, right now we're actually on the dartboard, and now we're focusing on where's that bullseye. So every year we do this, our focus gets better, our conversations get more in depth, and we improve that. And this data retreat meeting is the exact same way too. The first year we did it, we didn't really, we're just talking about general things. This is what the school improvement plan looked like. This is what we did. And now the great thing is that the board's developing a breadth of understanding of where we're going to the district. And it's not a new conversation. It's an old conversation that we're coming back to again. And the questions get more precise, the answers get more detailed, and everybody gets a better understanding of what we're doing. So when I say it was better, that's what I mean. It was better. It functioned better, and it should improve every year. Every single year we do it, it should get better. It doesn't mean the data gets better or worse. It doesn't mean our situation's better or worse, but our understanding of our circumstances are better and allows us to plan better for the next year.
So is this the same group of individuals year to year to year that you envision being a part of this?
It can change. Basically, our building leadership team, it's built up of a mix of teachers from both the high school and the grade school, and they operate as two separate entities. They come together several times a year to make sure they know what the other one's doing. But on that team, we just ask for a 2-year commitment from somebody. So if you're going to do this, please do it for 2 years. And after 2 years, your circumstances change. We'll shift you off. We'll bring somebody new in. Our goal is to keep 1 or 2 experienced people on the team each year, because then you know how things operate. But fresh blood coming in and bringing new ideas is a good thing as well. So that can change a little bit. From the administrative side, we've been very steady, and our board's been very steady too. We elected 1 new board member last April. So it hasn't changed very much, but there are a few new characters in it.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to, does the data drive where you go, Mr. Lamkey, in those conversations? Like, I guess, how do you, because, you said data is data, and that's fine. Does the data drive your conversations? Does it drive your initiatives and your goals? How would you say, how would you describe your use of the data that you're presented and you come across?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is that we all get a picture in mind. Anytime somebody says data, we just see these rows and numbers and Excel spreadsheets and columns and all this. And that's part of data. And we did talk about our achievement data and where we're at. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the main part of it. Data also comes from the input from people who are doing the work and the success that you're having. For example, Mrs. Fricky, one of her goals this year for student growth was that she thought we had entirely too many absences and tardies last year. Mm-hmm. And so she's done a major focus on decreasing those, and she's got those down by 25% this year. So we're looking at attendance data in that situation. Mm-hmm. At the high school, you don't have a lot of curricular data to look at, or testing data, because it's much more sparse. The IAR just happens at 11th grade, and then there's nothing else to find out. So by the time you're a junior and you're finding out how well somebody's doing, it's more like it's at the end of the track as opposed to the beginning. Now, next year, we are instituting more achievement testing for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. It's going to give us some more achievement data to look at. But the data just kind of develops. And again, it will get more and more precise when we're looking at very specific things down the road. But we're still taking a pretty broad general look at things. And again, I think it's more about the understanding, both sides understanding what the other side's doing is the most important thing.
Sure. So again, Mr. Fred Lamkey, Superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, is my guest on the phone today. You talked about attendance, Mr. Lamkey. So what kind of things more specifically did you come up with out of this data retreat, as you call it? What were some of the things that you'll be doing moving forward? Can you speak to that a little more broadly?
I mean, some of it is just as simple as better communication with parents going, hey, your child, a lot of times, if a parent goes to work in the morning and they're not there when their kid goes to school or doesn't go to school, they may not all be completely aware of like how often their kid is in school or tardy or not in school. We know how we get busy with life and days just kind of blur. So a big part of that is just our high school office having better communication with parents, letting them know, hey, your child's missed this many days this semester. Hey, your kid's been tardy this many times. And there's accountability in there, too, that you hold kids accountable. You're going to be tardy? Well, then there's a consequence for being tardy. And so that's built in. That's kind of natural stuff. But it really comes down mostly when we're looking at our numbers, it's chronic tardies and chronic truancy. And coming out of the pandemic, we saw an upswing in that. The kids that didn't want to go to school before, but still came, you get to the pandemic, you find out, hey, I don't have to go to school. And then it's kind of tough to get them back in the swing of things. And I'm here to tell you that Mrs. Heather Fricky, our high school principal, she doesn't take that for an answer. She calls the parent and says, hey, Bobby Sue, not at school today. Can I go pick him up? Parent says yes. We show up at the door. Bobby Sue gets in the car and comes to school. They wouldn't do it when the parent told them that when the principal shows up to the door, they get in the car and they come to school. And
that's pretty old school stuff right there, Mr. Lamkey.
Yeah. And we try not to make it punitive either, because, you don't want to bring them to school and say, okay, now you've got in-school suspension for not coming to school. Then we try and build from that about, hey, why aren't you coming to school? What's going on in the morning? How can we help you? And you try and build some interventions in to support the student to get them to start coming. And I'll be real honest, because they know that Mrs. Fricky's going to knock on their door if they're not there. They don't want that. They really don't want to do with that. And it's not because they're afraid of Mrs. Fricky or anything else. She has great relationships with the kids. I think it kind of reaches the point of they don't want to disappoint. And we set that expectation, and she's seen really, really good improvement.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Mr. Lamkey, again, anything else out of the data retreat worth talking about from your perspective that either you're excited about or you think is innovative or fun or whatever the case may be? Anything we didn't touch on there you want to get to?
Yeah, I think just in closing, I'm so excited because the teachers and the board find value in it now. I was worried that, as I retire at the end of this year, that this would be very easy to say, oh, I don't want to get up on a Saturday morning. I've got farmers that are on my board. I've got, more activities. The good weather sometimes happens. We're still waiting for that. And it's tough to get up and do that. But I think they find the value in this now that they're like, yeah, we have to do this every year because it gives us a better idea of where our schools are and what we're doing. So to me, that's very encouraging that it's being built in.
Sure. I know you're probably just a small part of what is happening within this whole kind of structure of what you've created here, but, we'll talk about this in the next segment a little bit, Mr. Lamkey. I mean, obviously you're retiring, stepping out of your role, and the district has a new leader and a new vision and new eyes coming in. So how about that piece of transition? Will that make an impact on what you've created with this?
Most certainly it will. Yeah, most certainly it will. And I think it's going to be a really positive impact. Not necessarily my departure, but I think the systems we have built in and the leader that we're bringing in, I think it's going to lead to a nice transition.
Well, we'll talk more about that transition on the other side of a break, Mr. Lamkey. In the meantime, where do folks go to follow along, learn about, just see what's happening in Mount Pulaski schools? Where do they do that?
We got a wonderfully informative webpage at www.mountpulaski.k12.il.us. And just as good are our Facebook pages. You can go to Mount Pulaski High School or Mount Pulaski Grade School, and anything and everything athletics you can find at MP Athletic Director, MP ATHDIR, and you can follow Trent Cavalman and the path of our athletes.
That is Mr. Fred Lamkey, Superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, on the morning show with us. More to come with Mr. Lamkey on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW. Illinois Ag Better. Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn steady, beans lower, wheat trading lower. May corn up 1 3/4, 439.5. July corn up 3/4, 452. December new crop 474, down 3/4. May beans 1203 1/4, down 6. July beans down 5 1/2, 1216 1/4. November new crop 1194 1/4, down 4 1/2. May Chicago wheat 550 1/2, down 4 1/2. July wheat down 4 1/2, 566 1/4. May bean meal 340.70, down $1. May bean oil 48.67. That's down 35 cents. Livestock market, March feeders 248.87, down 57 cents. April live cattle 183.55, down 265. April lean hogs 85.65, up $0.50. Energy market, May crude oil 82.09, up 14 cents. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4Ls with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Allergy season is here, and our Warner Hospital and Health Services walk-in clinic inside our family medicine is here to help. No appointment, no problem. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mr. Fred Lamkey is the superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, our guest on the phone today. Mr. Lamkey, we touched on it kind of going out there at the end. There is a bit of transition happening in Mount Pulaski Schools. You are set to retire at the end of the fiscal year for the school district, which means there will be a new man in your seat. Tell us about just where that process stands and who's going to be taking over for you.
In December, the board hired with a 7-0 vote Mr. Jason Spang. Mr. Spang is originally a Decatur native. He went to school at Moreau Forsyth High School. Since that time, he's spent some time as a teacher and administrator up north. Most recently, he's been at Peatone High School as their principal for the last, I believe, 4 years. And so Jason's in his early 40s. He's very eager to come to Mount Pulaski. And the timing of it, we got him hired so quickly that he comes in once a month, and he and I get to sit down and work together. It's a luxury I did not have when I was becoming the superintendent. And so he's becoming very familiar with our district, our board members, our administration, so that when July 1 rolls around, I think he's going to hit the ground running pretty well.
Yeah. So from your perspective, Mr. Lamkey, what kind of a situation does he walk into, from your Board of Education, from your staff, to your administration, to your facilities and the finances? What's this gentleman walking into?
Well, I tell you what, I think I honestly believe Mount Pulaski is one of the best superintendent jobs out there. We have very stable finances. The wind farms have greatly enabled us to do things that we previously couldn't do. We have 2 more wind farms on the horizon coming in. We got a board. You couldn't find a board that's more in touch and more caring about what happens to their district and where they go. And then, and now I feel like I'm just bragging, Seth, but then I've got 3 of the best administrators I've worked with. They are so focused and so on board with where we're going and what we're doing. It's a really great place to be. And I think Jason's going to step in and do a nice job. He's very, this guy takes more notes than anybody I've seen. He's asked more questions. I was concerned when he'd come in once a month. I'm like, well, I guess I got to figure out an agenda for what Jason needs to know. And Jason comes to me with an agenda about what he wants to learn. And to me, that's just outstanding. So it's been a great process. And I think he's stepping into a place where, and his attitude is, I'm not coming in to change anything. I'm coming in to learn and understand. And then we see where we go after that. So I think his approach is really good too.
What will be the biggest learning curve and the biggest piece of change in the superintendent's chair that maybe maybe not goes unnoticed, but it's just maybe more of an undertaking than it looks from the outside looking in? How about that from your perspective?
It's really experience, because I can tell you what I know now as a 9th year superintendent to what I knew as a 1st year superintendent. It's exponentially more. It's amazing. And Jason asked, how do you know that? I'm like, I've done it so many times. I just do now. It's an expectation. And I think that experience piece is just something that you have to get through. And I've told Jason so many times, I said, the most important thing is don't do anything by yourself. There's so many other superintendents, there's so many organizations, and there's so much help out there to help you make the right decisions. And a lot of it is not even that making the decision, it's having the right information to make the decision. And those resources are out there for him. So that was my best advice I'd give to him, is that find some superintendents that you get along with and you trust, you can bounce things off of. And then also some folks in the community that you can work with too to, perspective is amazing, and it helps you so much when you have good perspective. And I told him just to keep gathering that.
What will be his biggest challenge, whether it's within Mount Pulaski Schools itself, whether it's something external, whether it's state noise or the like? What will be his biggest challenge coming into this position?
I think it's just really Mount Pulaski. It's an amazing community in that it changes and it evolves and develops, but there's so many of the same families that have rolled through here for so long. And I think the biggest thing is building that relationship with the community. I can tell you on my Board of Education, 5 of the 7 were Mount Pulaski graduates. They went, and their parents were Mount Pulaski graduates, and on and on. I got one board member who's from Lincoln who's now moved into Mount Pulaski and been here for over 20 years. got another board member that's lived here for over 30 years. But the whole thing is that relationship with the community. And you come to Mount Pulaski, the same names are still all over the hilltop. And I think it's getting in there and earning their trust. And I think that's going to be really important. And Jason's got all the personality to be able to do that.
What's going to be his strength coming into that role, you think?
Oh, I think the fact that he is just this ultimate learner. I mean, he is a sponge, and he is looking. He's not leaving any rock unturned. He's asking questions. And, he's openly told me, he said, don't go changing your cell number. I'll be calling. and that's perfectly fine. And because there's some things that I've done a million times he hasn't done once, and if I can give him a little support, I'm going to be happy to do that.
Sure.
Also, the IASA, the Illinois Association of School Administrators, Vic Zimmerman, former superintendent of Monticello, that's one of his mentors. And having somebody like Vic on your side who's been through the trenches and through the wars, that's another great resource. So I think his openness and understanding of what he does know and what he doesn't know is probably his greatest strength.
Sure, very good. Well, Mr. Lamkey, anything else on the transition? And from your perspective, how it's going? Did we miss anything you want to put out there for us?
No, it's just kind of, I've been asked many times, hey, how's it feel to be in your last year? And how's it feel to be in your last semester? And I was like, it doesn't feel very different. I'm still doing my job, and we got places to go. But I do have to admit now, as we start getting towards the first week of April here next week, that it's starting to settle in a little bit. And it's, I really look forward to my retirement and what my future brings to me. I'm going to miss some people in Mount Pulaski. It's been a really great place to be.
Sure. What are you going to do with yourself, Mr. Lamkey?
I'm going to do something. I don't think you can take a superintendent and just put him out to pasture and expect them to do well. So I'll be looking for something to keep me busy. I don't think I want 40 hours a week, but I'll be looking for something that's going to keep me busy and maybe keep me in the circles of education, possibly. Just have to wait and see what opportunities come out.
Sure. Mr. Lamkey, let's wrap it up with this. You had some great success, one of your junior high school programs, great success this spring and this fall, or this winter, I should say. Tell us about this.
Yeah, we started off with our 7th grade team, who's coached by Emma Apier, reaching the state tournament. They had a great run. They got knocked off by a very good Bunker Hill team that kept them from moving forward. And then the following week, we had Hannah Casper leading our 8th grade team. We won our regional championship by defeating Blessed Sacrament, last year's undefeated state champion. Then we got a chance to roll up on Bunker Hill, who's the team that beat us in 7th grade, and we were able to beat them in 2 games. And lo and behold, we found ourselves in the state championship against Bloomington Corpus Christi, and that was 3 great games. We lost the first one 21-25, but then we came back and won 27-25 and 25-23 for an exciting state championship. So we're very proud, and the community is very excited about what they did. These young girls grew so much. I mean, they weren't like a near undefeated team. They had 7 or 8 losses during the year, but they grew so much through those things. And, wow, they were a real powerhouse going down the stretch.
Yeah, volleyball's big in Mount Pulaski, Mr. Lamkey, as is basketball, and look forward to it all next year. We appreciate your time as always, good sir, and we'll talk next month.
You got it, Seth. Appreciate you, man.
Definitely. That is for Mr. Fred Lamkey, superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, on the phone with us. Network News on the way.
WHOW.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM W293 DJ